for logging on for this week's edition of the Nationwide Preview Show, where we're going to take a little quick look back at the Phoenix race, but of course push it forward to our race coming up this weekend in Las Vegas. And here to help me with all of the news and notes of the Nationwide Series is TNT's own Ralph Sheheen. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ralph.
My pleasure, Nikki. Good to be with you again.
All right, we look forward to it. Now, last week we made some pretty good picks. I had Reed Sorenson, who's now at the top of the point standings, but of course we saw Carl Edwards and Kyle Busch, two regular Cup drivers up front, fighting for the lead. Now, Reed Sorenson this week made a great comment that he was so excited to log in and see the point standings and see all these zeros next to these full-time Cup drivers' names. We're a couple weeks in. How are the point standings working so far?
Well, yeah, if you're Reed Sorenson and you're on top of the heap, everything looks great from the view up there, right? It's what Reed Sorenson and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Jason Leffler, Danica Patrick, and Joe Nemechek in the top 5. Now, as we've talked about, we've seen these names leading the points, but on the win columns, we've seen Cup drivers with Tony Stewart at Daytona, and then we had Kyle Busch this past weekend at Phoenix. I think this year, it might be a little bit confusing for some of the race fans as the season progresses through the year. You might see a lot of these Cup guys who have sponsor commitments to run the whole season, the Kyle Busches and Carl Edwards, Brad Keselowski's. Those guys are going to rack up a lot of wins, but they're not going to be seen in the points. Over there, you're going to see the nationwide regulars. I think in future years, you'll see some of those Cup drivers back off of full schedules and just run partial nationwide schedules. So it won't be as different. You won't see so many wins by Cup guys and points led by nationwide guys. It'll be more nationwide regulars leading in both categories. So I think this year, due to those sponsor commitments, it's going to be a little weird for the fan to go, now wait a minute, why is this guy winning so much, but he's not leading the points? But in the coming years, I think that'll balance out.
Now, one of the guys that does not have a big zero next to his name is Elliott Sadler. He's a full-time nationwide driver this year. Now, going into our first intermediate track of the season, he had some thoughts on the diamond in the desert.
You know, it's the first mile and a half of the year. It's the racetrack that's like, okay, let you know we've got our stuff together, or we got to do some more homework. You know, everybody's going to have a good car at Daytona and handle well, especially with the new asphalt. Phoenix is kind of a short track deal. When you get to Vegas, we got a test day. It's a mile and a half. I think that's kind of where you see your stack up compared to the rest of the team. So I always look forward to going to that track.
All right, now, Ralph, Elliott Sadler alluded to it a little bit there. We're going to our first intermediate track of the schedule. Give fans an idea of what we can expect when we tune in on Saturday night for the race in Las Vegas.
This is a type of racetrack that these drivers are going to see more than any other over the course of the season. So if you want to make a run for the points, this is where you got to start running really good. We talked about how Daytona is a unique race. It's the only one of its kind. It's the big season opener, the curtain raiser. You kind of let that one sit over here. Then you move on to Phoenix. That's where the real season really begins as far as guys going, okay, we've got to be on our game each and every week, all right? We're past that. Now race number 3 here in Vegas, this is where the guys are all saying, this is the type of track we're going to see more than any other over the course of the year, so we really need to be good on these big intermediate-sized speedways. So this is a very important track, but a good barometer to see who's got their package good for the rest of the year.
Now, you mentioned racing for those points and going all out. I have a feeling that your pick might be somebody who's not racing for those points and going just for a win. Give us your pick for this week in Las Vegas.
Nikki, we've only done this for 3 weeks in a row now, and you already know me better than anybody else. You're right. I'm going to go with the guy that won here a year ago because I think that Cup experience is going to be a big part of it. I like Harvick.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction. Justin Allgaier, he got a top 10 last week in Phoenix. He's kind of moving his way up the points, and he got a top 10 last year at this race in Las Vegas. So I'm going to pick Little Gator this week to win the race, take it all. And we have an exciting race coming up in Las Vegas. Ralph, thank you so very much for joining us with all of your insight and help this week. We look forward to hearing from you all season.
Thanks, Nikki. Look forward to it.
All right, and thank you all at home for joining us for another edition of the Nationwide Preview Show. Now be sure to tune back in all weekend as we give you the latest highlights from the Sam's Town 300 in Las Vegas.